Hello everyone, my name is Elijah Proctor. This is IWAS, the Intelligent Workflow Automation System. It's a full stack platform built with the React Vite front end, a Flask API, and a managed MySQL database on DigitalOcean Kubernetes. So very quickly, I'm going to show you, this is DigitalOcean. I have a database cluster for our IWAS database. We have a domain name, iwascapstone.com, and then we have our Kubernetes cluster where our API and our front-end containers are hosted. Everything you'll see is over HTTPS at iwascapstone.com. I'll start by logging in on the homepage with the demo account. We're going to be using test@example.com, and so our password is going to be change.me. And so if you want to access this page, you just go to this website and then put in these credentials. And so when you log in, the authentication is going to be using JWT cookies with role-based action controls. And so anytime I make an API request navigating through this website, the API should know my credentials based on that cookie that's placed in the headers. The layout is a light theme. We have a responsive shell. We have a sticky sidebar and top bar. So when I scroll down, it should stick to the top. And then we can easily navigate to other pages on this application. Let's start with the dashboard. So you see overview tiles for workflows, tasks, done, and pending. We also have a 30-day spark line and recent activity. Auto refreshing happens automatically, and so this draws from our analytics API, which I won't have time to get through today, but just quickly, it kind of shows the almost similar data, just a little bit more analytics for you to manage your tasks. Let's go through our workflows page, which is probably the most important page. This allows you to manage your workflows and your automation settings. So we're going to create a workflow. We're going to call this workflow website launch, and the description is going to be prep task for launch. And then we're going to add this workflow. We can add automation rules on the workflow, but first we need to add some tasks. So we're going to, in our existing workflows tab, we can open any of our existing workflows and add tasks to here. So we're going to add a task. We're going to call it prep. No, we're going to call it write release notes. And then we're going to assign it to our development team. And then we're going to say that it's due on Friday. Add the task. And so here now I'm going to open my Slack Jira DM. And so for now I'm just going to I'm going to explain later how it's set up for me to get this notification. But basically, anytime I create a workflow, it's going to show up here, and anytime I create a new task, it's going to show up here. Or if I make changes. So right now, if I put it to in progress, I should get a notification anytime a task is updated. So I'm always aware of what is happening between tasks. And so now we're going to go back, and I'm going to show you the automation rules. And so the first rule we're going to create is going to be called if any of the tasks fail. So if the tasks fail, I want to automatically create a GitHub issue. And so when the status has failed, we can specify the task, but since there's only one task in the workflow, it's not relevant. So if this happens, we can create a GitHub issue automatically, and then we're going to say automatic issue created from failed task. The cron expression we're going to leave blank since this is triggered anytime the status for a task is switched to failed. We're going to save that rule. We're going to go back to our tasks. So we're going to change this task to be failed. And so once that's done, we can see that it automatically updated. We got the notification here. And so I have my Jira, or I have my GitHub repo for IWAS configured so that it creates the GitHub issue for this repo. I'll explain that more in a little bit. And so basically the issue is automatically created when the task failed, and so I see it inside this GitHub repo. We're going to create one more workflow automation rule based on the cron expression, so I can show you that really quickly. And so we're going to create a rule. It's going to be called, we're going to call it review pings. And so the status doesn't matter for the task, since this is a cron job. We just want to send a notification every single minute. And so we're going to say, for the cron expression, we're going to put a cron expression that means every minute. And then the action value is going to be, please review tasks for this workflow. And so I'm going to save the rule. And so as I mentioned before, this is being run inside Kubernetes. If I actually have kubectl, which is a command line used to interact with the Kubernetes cluster, I can say kubectl get jobs. And so you can see that a job is going to be running at the top of the minute, so in about 30 seconds we should get a Slack notification. And so I'll mention that later on. We should, and then basically any of the workflow jobs that you have should be listed so that you can see them. You can delete them if they're no longer useful to you. Let's go to our reports page. So the reports, it lets you filter across workflows, and so we can sort by completed, or we can sort by pending. So we're just going to sort by pending first, and then we can export the CSV. So if I go to downloads, I open the CSV, we can see that it's printing out a report of our workflows in the order, or basically with the filters that we had initially applied. So it works very nicely. And as you can see, at the top of every minute, we're getting that scheduled workflow that we created through the cron expression. So we should, for the rest of this presentation, you should see one every minute. Let's go to our integrations page. So this basically, we're going to explain how I'm able to get the notification. So this tab is already pre-configured. There's no secrets that I'm going to display on the screen. And so we have our Slack. It's showing that it's connected. Basically, I can send a test through here based on the webhook URL I have posted. And so if I want if I want someone else to get the messages, or a different Slack DM to get the messages, I can just update this webhook URL, and then that person will instead get the messages. For GitHub, GitHub is connected to my IWAS Elijah Red IWAS repo, and so that's how I'm able to get that's why the issues are automatically created here, since I configured it that way. I already have the personal access token, so if I click list repos, it will show all my repos that I have. I can manually create an issue, so manual issue creation, and this is a testing. If I create it through here, just to make sure that it's working, if I refresh the page, you can see that I automatically created the issue. I'm going to mark these as complete so I do not forget about that. And then for our last integration, we have our Jira. And so Jira is connected to the IWAS Capstone backlog. So we have a Scrum backlog. And so the Jira webhook URL and rotation are available for Slack to Jira Slack notifications. And so if a notification fires, I'll see it directly through my DM tab. But for now, we're just going to basically create a simple test. So we're automatically going to manually going to create a Jira issue through this interface. Let's just call it, let's just make a bug ticket, bug number 2. We're going to say this is a bug test. We're going to create the issue. We can see that it successfully created this issue to our backlog if we refresh the page. we should see the issue here. We can update it. We can make changes to it if we need to. This is just automatically just creating the issue, and then you can create a workflow rule that will create these issues if a system fails or anything like that. Let's go to our notifications very quickly. Notifications and logs show recent activity and audits, and so we also capture API level errors in an API event table visible via the API logs, API/logs/errors endpoint. And so since I'm an administrative user, I can actually hit the API. So I can say logs /errors. And so this will show me all the log errors that have occurred. And so it's easy for me to debug 500 status codes that happens on the API. The logs are very similar. Basically, it's showing anytime I update the task. Basically, it's auditing anything that happens within my workflows and my tasks. Let's quickly talk about how this application gets deployed automatically, the CI/CD aspect of this. So if I go to GitHub, I have a GitHub workflows. So basically, anytime I push to the main branch, I push a commit to the main branch, it's automatically going to build a Docker image based on my GitHub code, and it's going to push that Docker image to the Docker hub so that Kubernetes has access to it. So Kubernetes is going to run an instance. It's going to automatically deploy to Kubernetes and then apply the manifest so that it's automatically deploying the application that we had just created. So commits are automatically going to be published to production. So if we go to an example, we have our GitHub Actions, and so basically this is an example of a pipeline where we're building the Docker image, and then we're pushing it to the Docker hub, and then we're deploying that Docker image that was created to Kubernetes automatically. So this is a pretty nice feature, and it makes it very easy to get new code out to production if there is an issue. Let's talk about the challenges and fixes very quickly. So let me just for demonstration purposes, kubectl get ingress, and so this is our load balancer for Kubernetes that basically says, hey, we have this IP address in this cluster, and then this is the host name that I want to use for that IP address. So our biggest challenge was moving from the plain IP, which was HTTP, to production domain with HTTPS. So initially only HTTP worked. We fixed DNS so that it points to IWAS for our Ingress load balancer. We also added TLS with Cert Manager and Let's Encrypt. And we corrected any CORS mixed content by enforcing same origin on the /API endpoint and removing any trailing /redirects. And so this was a huge milestone because this makes sure that basically all of our cookies are secure, our Slack, Jira, GitHub calls stay on the domain, and the app no longer hits Squarespace or mixed content blocks, which was the issue that I encountered when I first was adding HTTPS. And so let's navigate back to our dashboard. And so this shows live updates. When I first showed the dashboard, there's only 3 workflows, and now there's 4. It's automatically doing it every 60 seconds. I created a workflow, reports load, integrations show connected, logs reflect activity, all over HTTPS at IWASCapstone.com. So in closing, IWAS meets the Capstone's goals. We have our workflow automation, we have our Slack, GitHub, and Jira integrations, analytics and reporting, secure auth with role-based action controls. We have a CI/CD pipeline to Kubernetes, and then we have a MySQL database and TLS certification for secure HTTPS. So thank you for watching, and I hope you have a blessed day.